Alright guys, a little shaky. Today I want to do a video on cleanup crew. How much is too much? What's not enough? Of course, who knows, I might just go into a ramble. I mean, I don't really, have a script I do or anything like that. It's just off the top of my head. So, cleanup crew. How much is too much, or how much should you have? Right here, this is a 125 gallon. Fairly decent sized tank. But as you've seen in plenty of videos, I have a lot of shrimp, a lot of snails, different kinds of snails. So first we'll touch base to what I have in here and go from there. Now in this tank, people would say I have a snail infestation. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as an extensive cleanup crew. And one thing you gotta know about having a cleanup crew, snails, they will produce a lot of waste. So you have to have proper filtration. Now, the king of DIY, one of his video segments was how to make your own bucket canister filter, which I did for this tank. I have another video on my channel, just basically directed on that. My bucket uses 1-inch PVC. Of course, I have the shut-off valves, stuff like that. But I also have, my neighbor actually gave me a pool filter from when, before he upgraded to a bigger filter for his pool. He was just using the one that came included in the kit and whatnot. This pump pushes 1,000 gallons per hour. Right now, I have it just adjusted down to probably about 800 gallons per hour for this tank. A lot of people say, oh, you have to cycle, or make sure your water turns over 8 to 10 times, an hour, or, something like that. I'm doing a little bit more in this tank. Well, no, that would be about, it'd be short of 8 times. But it's plenty for this tank. And I have hundreds, if not thousands, of snails in here. And I'm going to go over the different snails, why they're in this tank. Now, in this tank, I have pond snails, Malaysian trumpets, mystery snails, narrate snails. Now, in this tank, I originally had a pond snail infestation. I got a couple coolie loaches, to help control the population, and they did fairly well. They more like the regular food now. But they're still, it's not overabundance of pond snails. They're still taking care of them here and there. I can see empty shells everywhere, which is, I always leave the shells in because it's adding more calcium to the water for the rest of the inhabitants that need the calcium to shed or grow shells, stuff like that. Ooh. So, the narrate snails I have in here, I have 2 horned, 2 zebras, 2 tigers. I originally got them when I had all this, well, not all of it, but when this tank was basically this 40 gallon here, which is now my brackish tank. That was more than adequate, cleanup crew. Also, I had shrimp, I believe, in here too, if I remember correctly. But, those 6 snails was more than accurate, wow. It was perfectly fine for this tank. Of course, I did have algae problems. That's why I added, I had a mono shrimp in there, stuff like that. But anyway, I got the nerites originally to just eat leftover food, decaying plant matter, because my phosphates would always go through the roof. Because, the plants shadowing other plants, it would cause old leaves to die off, stuff like that. And then I moved over to this tank, and then I put those nerites also in here. I probably should have kept them in there so they'd breed readily, but also with nerites, they do lay white eggs everywhere. And a lot of people would say that's unsightly. Me personally, it doesn't bother me. But their eggs will not hatch in fresh water. And they have to have salinity to hatch. So, like, say, brackish water, salt water, stuff like that. So that's a really nice snail to have if you don't want a massive snail infestation. Pond snails, I like having them in here because pond snails will assist in eating stuff like hydra. I have seen them eat planaria. Not very often, but they do, like the little planaria. But mainly the hydra. They love eating that. Of course, they're also going to eat the decaying plant matter, stuff like that. Now, matter of fact, right here's the nerite snail. I'm not sure if you can see him. It's one of my zebra nerites. And of course, pond snails, they will breed out of control if there is enough food in there for them to sustain more young. Then I have mystery snails. And I like mystery snails, don't get me wrong. But holy cow, do they breed and breed and breed. Right now, I have 6 unopened clutches on the rims. And I already have hundreds, if not thousands, of mystery snails in here. So I originally started off with 2 gold, 2 black, 2 blues. And it just kind of exploded from there. If you've seen some of my other videos, I mean, but there's a benefit to this. I don't have no mom at the bottom. You know, part of that's also Malaysian trumpet snails. Of course, I'll come to that. But they do a really good job of cleaning up. As soon as they see a leaf dying on a plant or something, they're right on top of it eating it. So that way my phosphates stay relatively low. And I also have Malaysian trumpet snails. It's another snail that people claim is a pest. No, I do not look at that snail whatsoever as a pest. Like maybe in sand tanks, they can uproot plants if they get too extensive, but I mean, I have oodles of Malaysian trumpet snails in this tank, that tank, this tank, that tank. I have them in all my tanks because they'll burrow into the substrate and stir it up. So with this being a dirted tank, that's actually really good because any of the uneaten organic matter and stuff that's sitting on top as they're moving around, it gets sucked down into that dirt to hopefully, theoretically, create more fertilizer for the plants. So it's constantly rejuvenating basically the dirt I have in there. They love burrowing in sand more, but I mean, I could look right now and like right there, I just saw some of the gravel move because they're burrowing through the substrate. And I don't really have a problem too much with uprooting my plants because most of the plants I put in here already have a substantial rooting system on it. Like when I trim back this wisteria, I'm going to put some behind the wood mess here to create more of like a cove type effect. But with all this wisteria, you can see it's already shooting at roots everywhere. Well, I'm not sure if you can see that from there, but so I'll cut it right under where the root structure is, and then I'll take that trimming and I'll replant it. Matter of fact, I have so much wisteria anymore that, hell, I've been giving it to somebody because their fish love to eat it. Matter of fact, I have a bunch floating in my guppy breeder tank as a floating plant at the moment because I ran out of room to put it. So that's pretty much it for the snails that I have in here. Another good cleanup crew snail would be ram's horn snail, but once again, they breed out of control. So you have to, you know. And I know I feed this tank probably more extensively than I should, and that's why snails keep reproducing, stuff like that. But the way I look at it is, hey, I could scoop those snails out, give them to friends, sell them, you know, whatnot. So, I also have cherry shrimp in here, red cherry shrimp. And they're a fantastic cleanup crew. Matter of fact, they're actually fantastic to watch. Just sitting down and just watching the shrimp, I could do it for a long time. Matter of fact, they're all through all this here. I mean, they're everywhere. They're over there in the Marimo Moss Ball area. And out of all honesty, they're great algae eaters. A lot of people say that they don't eat algae too much. Mine will even eat blackbeard algae. I mean, I've never had a problem with it. But that's also another part of the cleanup crew that can breed out of control. Which, not a big deal. Everybody's always looking for shrimp, so it's easy to get rid of. Now, I also have 5 Julie Corridoras in here. And I picked the Julies because they stay relatively small. I personally like the looks of them. I think they look better than the Sturbies. And you can't really find Julies too much in the hobby much anymore. At least when I was trying to find them. So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to breed them out right now. Of course, I also started off with 7 or 8 Otocinclus. Great algae eater. And now I got probably about 20 of them in here. They used to lay their eggs throughout the moss here, but now they're actually laying eggs on the wood, on the leaves, stuff like that. I also have the Farlowella catfish, which is a fantastic algae eater, scavenger. I got 4 of those in here. Those are a recent addition, and they're just fantastic to watch. A lot of people say that they stay stationary most of the time. I mean, they do for long periods of time, but they do move quite a bit in here. Of course, I got the Coolie Loaches, which is also a good cleanup crew because they'll eat uneaten food. They'll take care of pond snails. They don't really bother with any of the other snails. They just eat the pond snails. Of course, you know, there's also stuff like guppies, mollies, platies that will all eat algae. They're always hungry. Same way with the angelfish, they're always hungry, but let's see what else. My daughter. Well, I mean, there's plenty of other good cleanup crews that, you know, I don't have in this tank or some of my other tanks. Really good algae eaters are stuff like flying fox, Japanese algae eaters, not Chinese algae eaters. When they're small, they will destroy algae. But when they get bigger, they tend to want a meatier diet. And I had one in here, and it started eating off all my shrimp and stuff. So I moved it over here to the brackish tank, where it's been for almost a year.
I want to be in it again.
Not this one. But people will say that, oh, Chinese algae eaters can't survive brackish water. He's actually doing better in there than he ever did in here. Better coloration and everything. He originally, pissed me off by eating my shrimp, so I threw him in there for crab food, and, well, of course the crabs get along with him. Because nobody wanted to take this fish from me. But, you know what, I'm glad he survived. He's in there eating the Daphnia, stuff like that. Different various copepods are in there, so he's happy. But, yeah, flagfish, flying fox, Japanese algae eaters, flagfish, all great algae eaters. Mono shrimp's an amazing algae eater. There's just so many fish and everything out there that could be considered a good cleanup crew that, I mean, you would just basically have to do your research. Those twig cats. So, yeah, like I was saying, when it comes to cleanup crew, I mean, just all you have to do is remember snails produce a lot of waste. Shrimp can produce a lot of waste. Just make sure you have adequate filtration. If you see that ammonia start to climb, it's time to up your filtration. Like I said, I got a lot of leeway on this tank yet. So, and I pick out, mystery snails, here and there, when they start getting out of control. So, anyway, I mean, you have too much of a cleanup crew when, your cleanup crew's starting to starve. There's not enough food in there. So just feed a little bit more, Also with snails and shrimp, if you take notice that, oh, well, you have too soft water, stuff like that, the nice thing about them is they can grow their shells or molt, depending if you have shrimp or snail, if they're ingesting a decent amount of calcium. Hence the reason why about maybe 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more, I'll just drop green beans in here. Green beans are really high in calcium, and it's actually kind of funny because the mystery snails will pile up on each other trying to get to that food. So, nice little helpful tip for you. But, alright, well, I think I'm going to cut this video here. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comments. I'm usually pretty quick to answer questions, stuff like that. And if I don't know it, I can direct you to somebody who does, or I'll just do the research myself, because knowledge is power. G.I. Joe. So, anyway, later on, guys.